Hello, everyone, and welcome to this online program presented to you by the UCSD Cross-Cultural Center. My name is Juliana, and today I will be presenting on mail art and social movements. So, a brief overview of what today's presentation will be. I will be going over the history of mail art in marginalized communities, mail art and social movements, and also I will be giving a quick tutorial on how to make mail art at the end of the presentation portion. So a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Juliana, and I'm a third-year communication major with a minor in film studies, and I am the Common Ground social media and marketing intern at the Cross-Cultural Center. A quick disclaimer, I will be using the closed captioning feature of Google Slides, so everything may not be completely accurate. So what is mail art? Mail art is a populistic artistic movement centered on sending small-scale works through the postal service. Mail art can take a variety of forms, including postcards, packages, faxes, emails, and blogs. So emails and blogs are a more modern conception of the mail art movement because when mail art was created, there was no internet. So this is a more modern take on mail art. So here are some examples of mail art. This is by artist Ray Johnson, and he is accredited as being almost the founder of mail art, even though the history of mail art is somewhat contested because there's no linear progression of the movement, but he is one of the founders of this movement. And these drawings are kind of like his signature aesthetic. So a quick history, mail art began in the 1960s when artists sent postcards inscribed with poems or drawings through the post, rather than exhibiting or selling them through conventional commercial channels, such as art galleries or museums. And it was the New York artist Ray Johnson who, in the mid-50s, posted small collages, prints of abstract drawings and poems to the art world notables, giving rise to what eventually became known as the New York Correspondence School. So like I mentioned before, he was accredited as being the founder of this movement. And a little bit about Ray Johnson. He was an American artist known for his innovative practice of mail art. This is a picture of Ray Johnson and artwork that he imposed on top of his photograph. As you can see, the aesthetic is similar to the examples of mail art that I showed you. So Johnson began chain letters, lending to the collage and DIY aesthetic of mail art. So essentially what Ray Johnson did was he himself would create mail art and then send it to a friend that he would ask to then add on to the art that he made himself, and then ask that friend to add more art and then send it to another person, creating this chain letter of art, and it led to the collage aesthetic. Mail art was the democratic answer to the plutocratic art museum scene. And if you don't know, plutocratic means characterized by government or by the wealthy, which led to hierarchies of what good versus bad art was. So mail art was created in response to this notion of art being good or bad based on notions of class and wealth. So it tried to challenge those hierarchies of class. Mail art was empowering and welcoming, a very accessible art form that anyone can participate in without fear of judgment. It was very personalized and unique to the vision of the person creating it. So essentially, it was so empowering because it was so accessible, meaning no matter who you were, no matter your class, your race, your gender, you could participate in this form of art because you could just use any materials that you had in your house. You didn't have to have access to expensive murals, expensive supplies like paints or oils or any types of things like that. So the idea of the founders and the members of mail art was to create a global community using mail as a mass medium. So as you can imagine, mail made it easier for people to connect to one another because you could send your mail art to someone who lived outside of the United States or someone who lived across the country from where you were making your art. The emphasis on the act of exchange and collaboration, free of barriers like language and ideologies and religion, were emphasized by the founders. So they created this movement in a way so that it was very accessible to people, and it didn't matter, like I mentioned before, your background, what language you spoke, or any of those things. The real recognition of postal art as a concept came with the development of the New York Correspondence School in 1962, which I will discuss further. So the New York Correspondence School institutionalized this idea of mail art and encouraged meetings of its members, which were a big part of the school's program. So from my understanding, doing research on the New York Correspondence School, it wasn't a literal school like UCSD, where people would enroll and take classes. It was more of a way to gather people who were interested in mail art and the movement itself, and people could congregate, make art with one another, and participate in the mail art culture. The school closed in 1973, but the practice still remained very strong. Ray Johnson continued to practice mail art as well as all the other artists, so it didn't die once the school died. And the fact that it was cheap and flexible made the movement accessible to so many people, particularly those within communities encountering censorship and the inability to express their opinions and ideas. And this theme will be very prevalent throughout the rest of this presentation. But here on the right is an example of mail art that was used by the New York School of Correspondence as a means of promoting the school itself. So you can see the at the bottom it says New York Correspondence School exhibition, and it's inviting people to participate, and it gives you the location of the school. So here's a quick video from a documentary where an artist explains his own experience with mail art and his relationship with Ray Johnson.
Network of artists that call themselves mail artists, and they use rubber stamps to decorate their envelopes and such. And if I wanted to know more about it, I should get in contact with either Ray Johnson or E.M. Plugin, who in 1962 gave a name to Johnson's activities, and he called it the New York Correspondence School. Ray Johnson, it turns out, is the father
creating the mail art network, essentially, as we understand it today.
Johnson began to provide me with addresses of other artists. He would often write letters that said add and send to. So like send to a third person who I didn't know, but writing to that person extended my pool of correspondence. I was writing to people all over the world, really. I mean, that was really one of the exciting things, that although I was in this isolated geographic location in upstate New York, I could be in correspondence with people in Yugoslavia and Brazil, Uruguay, Japan, you know, really all over. Network of artists that call themselves.
So yeah, that was a quick little piece from this documentary. I encourage y'all to watch this because it's very interesting. And it gives like a good overview of the movement in its entirety, and it gets a more modern take on the movement as well, because there are people who still participate in mail art, even though it began in the 50s. So some elements of mail art, I should mention that not all mail art is created the same way. There's no like precedent as to how it should be made, but these are very much reoccurring techniques that artists use when creating their mail art. So an example is decorated envelopes. So as you can see on the right-hand side, this is just an envelope with the address in the middle and different stamps and drawings and wording. And this is an example of a decorated envelope. And they represent the packaging of postal artwork, focusing on the envelope rather than the content. And they used drawings, paintings, stamps, etc. And the envelope became the art, and it could be delivered without accompanying content. So sometimes mail art can be the art that's included within the envelope, or it can also just be literally the envelope itself. You could include more art inside, but for a lot of people, the artwork itself was the envelope. Another example of an element of mail art is artist stamps or rubber stamps. And the stamps became sort of a trademark for some artists. They would create their own designs, and that became almost like their signature. So they would include a stamp that they created on whatever envelope they were sending. And the names of these stamps go by artist stamps, postoids, faux postage, and even Cinderella. I don't know why it's also called Cinderella, but I think that's a cool name. And yeah, so these are some examples of signature trademarks by certain artists, and they're all very different and unique, which is pretty cool. And other media that was included in mail art were photography, collages, photo montages, recycled images, found objects, poetry, artist trading cards, and other envelope-fitting items like banknotes, badges, stickers, ticket, food packaging, all these different types of things. That's what made mail art so accessible. It was literally anything you wanted. And especially if you were a multimedia artist, you could exhibit all your skills onto this tiny envelope. Mail art was very important for marginalized communities, and Miriam Kennel, an art history professor at the University of Kentucky, has done research on this. And she says that a lot of gay rights activist groups in particular found a deep sense of community through mail art. They, as in the gay community, could feel really connected to a wider movement that was also very accepting and loving. So within the mail art movement, a lot of people had a sense of community because they were able to reach out to so many different people. Mail art could be reached out to people who were very isolated in more provincial places where they lived, people not only remote from New York art world, but marginalized in the communities that they lived in because of their sexuality. So essentially, mail art gave people an opportunity to reach out to not only members within their community, but members outside of their community, and they were able to find solidarity and comfort in knowing that there were other people participating in this movement. So this is an example of a group that utilized mail art. They were called the Les Petites Bonbons, and they were a queer artist collective from Milwaukee that grew out of an international mail art movement and the gay activist scene of the early 1970s. And this example of mail art at the right-hand side, it's the picture of this art collective, and it says, "Please imagine a gay universe." And this is probably an advert for maybe a concert they were having or something like that. But this is a form of mail art that was used for promotional reasons. And as you can see, this would be a great way to reach a bunch of people. This is another person who used mail art to challenge hegemonic societal norms. Pat Larder was a British-born Australian-based artist who emerged as one of the most prominent participants of the international mail art movement of the 70s and 80s. Her films, performances, and mail art interrogated the gendering of the body and parodied what she called male-given sexual stereotypes. With her ostentatious outfits and exaggerated poses, she disrupted the binaries and hierarchies that structure gender and sexual relations. So in this example of mail art, she's participating in challenging gender norms. And Pat often used the phrase "get arted" as a way to encourage people to join the mail art movement and use art as a way to challenge politics or other hegemonic ideas. So mail art was practiced not only within the United States, but outside of the United States, especially in Latin America. Mail art has always been a global practice, and it was used in Latin America in response to social and political unrest caused by authoritarian governments and military dictatorships through the 60s and 80s. And on the right-hand side, this is an example of mail art where the art would be like content inside the envelope and the envelope not necessarily being part of the art. And it's a image of South America with the word censurar around the borders, and censurar means to censor. And the artist's name is located at the bottom of the envelope. It says Horacio Zabala. And this theme is very prevalent throughout the other mail arts that were featured in this time. So although physical distance and government-imposed censorship and repression imposed overwhelming obstacles, mail art gave artists an outlet and initiative to seek creative responses to the restrictions that surrounded them, acting on a global scale. So people during this time felt very restricted by policies enacted by their government, but they were able to use mail art to transcend these obstacles and these borders that were serving as an obstacle to them to reach out to the world and talk about their experiences in these oppressive regimes. So mail art was a great outlet for that. A lot of artists expressed anti-establishment and anti-commercial sentiments, and mail art was a good way to directly challenge government officials and other institutions, because the use of the post office to transmit art and the co-opting of official seals and stamps was another effort made to undermine the officialness of this government institution and subvert governmental authority, which I think is very interesting because this directly ties into the idea that the movement was created in response to challenge plutocratic art, which also has government and other social standards that drive notions of art. So this was a interesting parallel that I drew myself. And on the left-hand side is an example of a stamp that was created. And it looks like there's an instrument in the middle. Some other examples of art that came out of this time by Paulo Brusky, and this is a Brazilian artist, and it looks like in the center is some sort of political figure, and then around him is also the Portuguese word for censorship. And at the bottom, there's a quote in Portuguese that says, "A questão é equilíbrio," and I believe that translates to the question is equality, I believe. And on the right-hand side, this is a piece by Humberto Marques, and the caption or the title of it is Polícias y Estudiante, which means police and student. And as you can see, it's like a very graphic image of what I believe is to be the police fighting a student. So this is a movement that's happening all across Latin America, from Brazil to Mexico, and later, as we will discuss, Chile. So in October 2019, there were widespread protests that started in Chile. Social media had become a key way for artists and activists to circulate and exchange information and ideas. Independently curated Instagram feeds like pages Collage Chile has taken a particularly prominent role. The work and form of dissemination echoes 20th century mail art and collage practice from Latin America. So this particular Instagram page used its platform to help disseminate art that was being created by artists in Chile and also activists in Chile, and directly mirrored the mail art that was occurring in the 60s and 70s. In October 18, 2019, protesters took to the streets of the Chilean capital, Santiago, angered by a proposed increase in metro fares. So this image is taken from that protest, and as you can see, it's a peaceful protest, and it's just a lot of people in front of the Capitol trying to fight against these increased metro fares. So Chile's President Sebastián Piñera, who is politically center-right, responded by putting the military on the streets and declaring a state of emergency. He declared that we are at war against a powerful enemy who is willing to use violence without any limits. And the people he's saying that are violent were actually the peaceful protesters. Activists have used social media to report and denounce human rights abuses by police and military. So social media was a great way to get the message out and also connect people to one another. And artists on Collage Chile have also used its large and instantaneous networks for political effect. A feed of images from the past connect viewers with what is at stake in the present. And that's why using mail art and the collage style is so effective, because not only is the content of the art similar to the past, so is the actual style of the art. And this is an example of a collage that was created and posted on this account. The title of it is La misma mierda distinto olor by user Ordef. And it has images of Pinochet's military and are mixed with contemporary politicians. Piñera's face is positioned next to Pinochet's, and they are connected by this red intestinal shape in the middle, as you can see. And the two faces are in the middle as well. And this is a metaphor to describe how the past is being blended with the present, and how politicians now are very similar to the politicians from the 50s as well. So sharing these images via social media builds on a legacy of artists using collage and disrupting media messages seen in Latin American mail art. Social media, however, takes these exchanges further by connecting more people via hashtags and Instagram feeds. So as you can see on the left is a screenshot of some of the content that was being posted around that time. As you can see here, that's the image included in the last slide. So a lot of the collages that they are showcasing on their account have political figures in them with different text, and these are all in response to the political and social climate during that time. This is from 2019, and if you scroll up to their more recent posts, they're still making collages, and the collages are commentary on the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on right now. So the artists are still very active, but now they are onto critiquing different social and political events that are happening today. So that concludes the informational portion of this presentation. This is a quick video I found on YouTube with a tutorial on how to make mail art. So as I've shown, mail art can be used for political messaging, but it's also just a fun way to participate in older styles of media and express yourself and your aesthetics. So this one isn't political in any way, it's just a very cute video. And as you will see when I do my own tutorial, I also don't have access to a lot of materials right now. But that's the beauty of mail art, you can use basically anything you want. So a lot of the stuff I have is also just for aesthetic value. It has no real political meaning behind it. So I hope y'all enjoyed, and here's the quick video. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple project that you can take on by yourself. If you happen to be a crafty person, you might have way more materials than the average person, which will come in handy because the more materials you have, the more creative you can get. This person in the video used different stickers, it looked like pieces of paper that they cut out from maybe like a book or like maybe a magazine or something. So it's very much up to you. If you're a painter, you can use paint. If you are a photographer, you can use your old photographs. And there's a bunch you can include. And you don't even have to just decorate your envelope. You can decorate like a sheet of paper or something and use that to be placed inside the envelope, and it's still considered mail art. So it's really up to you, and it's a really fun way to de-stress. So, and you can still send it to your friends and stuff. It's a cute gift to send, and you can ask them to add more stuff, and then they can forward it to someone else, and then you can pay homage to Ray Johnson and start a whole new wave of chain letters. So this concludes the informational portion, and stay tuned for a quick tutorial. And these are the sources. A lot of good content and good articles on this topic. Welcome to the second half of this presentation. This is the instructional portion of the mail art presentation, and this is very much a DIY setup here, so I hope everyone can see everything. And sorry for the nails, they have not been done in a hot minute. So I will explain a little bit about my supply gathering journey. It was kind of hard because my access to resources was pretty limited, but I was able to find some stuff around my house and around my room that I thought could be good for creating some sort of collage on this envelope. First step is locating an envelope of some kind. I have these long ones, and I also have these smaller ones that look like these. And you can choose either size, or if you have different kinds of envelopes, that works as well. But based on the different supplies and clippings that I have, I'm probably going to use the larger one because the things that I have are kind of big. So first and foremost, is the envelope itself. Then you also want to make sure that you have scissors to cut whatever pictures or different things you might want to use. And then also a glue stick is important in order to glue down the different clippings you have. If you have stamps, that might need glue. If you're using paint, then these two things may not be applicable to you, but it's always good to have these on standby in case you need them. These will be off camera for a little bit. Then next, I went to go look for different things I could use to actually glue on to this, and I found these two books that I have not read and will most likely not read. I bought them in Mexico, and as you can see, the covers are no longer there because that's the part of the book that I'm using. I'm using the cover of one of them. It's really pretty. It has like trees and a lot of neutral tones, which I like. And then this one has some faces on it, which I really thought was cool. These are both anthropology books and philosophy books. Here you can see the titles of them, but they are written in Spanish, and my Spanish is not that great, so I don't think I will be reading these. I also pulled some text from this to use on the envelope as well. I got some clippings of text. I wasn't necessarily drawn to them for any particular reason besides they have words on them. But if you have a favorite book that you don't mind cutting up and you have favorite quotes, You can definitely pull them from the books that you have. I do have books that I like, but I don't want to cut them up. So that is why I'm using these books. And I got some more clippings, but we'll see how I'm going to incorporate them. And I might cut some more out. It just depends on the vision. And then I also have this old planner. This is from 2016, so I don't have use of it anymore. But you can see that it has some, ooh, that one has writing on it. It has some cool drawings and stuff. This is probably not the best example, but here you go. Here's a fish. So I pulled from different drawings. It says learn karate, destroy technology. And this has a lot of cool things. I also, if need be, put post-its on some pages that I might pull from if I need more clippings. Here's some cute mushrooms. I also put one here for the bees. Maybe I'll use some bees. And then also, since it is April, I was like, maybe I can put April on the envelope somewhere. So this is another example of things that I found. And also, in the back of that notebook, there's like red paper. So I'm like, maybe I can incorporate this red paper somehow. Here's some cute little drawings from that notebook. This one says decolonize everything. This one has a mushroom on it. This is a person's face and the word free written on it. Here's a person crying bees. Here's a map of North and South America, and I was like, well, how fitting. For my presentation, I discussed both these geographies, so I'm like, maybe I can pay homage to the mail art movement and my presentation through this, but we'll see. And then also this says no borders, no nations, but until then, and it was accompanied by the map. And I also found this old perfume box that has this cool flower design on it. I started cutting it up. As you can tell, it's pretty dismantled, but we'll see. I left it there because I don't know if I'll need it or not. Also, another fun thing that I feel like some people have kind of just lying around their house, stickers. I'll decide if I want to use them or not later on. But here are some stickers. Some cute designs. Some stars. Maybe I'll use the stars. I think that red really goes well with the blue and the green. And then I have some markers and my notebook with lined paper, and maybe I can even incorporate my own writing or something. And I also found money. It's a Mexican money, and the design's really cute. There's some butterflies on it, and as you saw in my presentation, there was a slide that featured $1 on an envelope. So I feel like money has been used before, and like I said, mail art is very much what you make of it. So let's see what we can create. So we have the envelope here, and I'm going to start off just by laying stuff down and seeing what looks good and what doesn't, and then we'll commit by gluing it down eventually. So I realize if you're at home, you're going to have access to different materials, and that's the beauty of it. It's up to you what you want to do, but this is just a general tutorial like the one I showed at the end of my presentation. The person who created that video did a snail theme, which I thought was really cute. So right now, I don't have a theme. I think I'm going to go in the route of maybe like nature. I think a lot of the things I cut out have natural elements to them. So I'll say for now that the theme is nature, but then again, there doesn't need to be a theme. It could just be a collage for the sake of it being a collage. So I really like this element right here, the one with the faces. And I think I want to put that at the center. And sorry, this thing is the makeshift tripod I have holding my camera. So this will be in the frame at all times. So we're gonna start off with this in the middle. And I'm just gonna leave it here. I'm just gonna lay the things out. I think the person in the video did a good job at showing us the thought process behind her aesthetic choices. She like laid the things down, and then once she liked the placement, she committed to it. And that's what I'm going to do as well. So I'm gonna lay this down. And then I'm gonna go to the clips that I got from my journal. And I really liked this one. And I looked at it and I thought this would be like a good border. It's a little thick. I might cut the edges, but for now I'm just gonna lay it down and have these cute birds and flowers kind of look at one another. And then I really like this girl crying bees. Maybe they're looking at her and making her feel insecure, so she starts to cry. Maybe that's the vibe we're going for. I definitely want to incorporate the map somehow. I think I'm gonna end up cutting it so that I get rid of this part, and I just put, maybe I can cut the, right here, sorry, right here. And then let's not forget the book clipping. So I'm just gonna use an element of each thing that I cut out so far to see if they even go together. I think they do. I really like these colors, and I think the neutralness of the brown paper will be a good way to tie everything together. So I'm gonna start laying down some text. I'm gonna put one like right here. And then I'm also gonna put this flower right at the corner, maybe even covering some of the text. This is definitely gonna need to be cut because it is way too big. And so I'm gonna start cutting. I'm gonna cut, oh, these little trees are so cute. I'm gonna cut one of those trees actually. Let's cut this. I hope you can see what I'm doing. We're gonna cut this tree. Okay. We got this little tree. I'm gonna put her right here to cover that edge. Okay. Then I'm going to maybe put more text at the bottom here. I'm gonna get like a smaller quote or like a smaller line. So I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut the last part of this sentence. I think that'll be a good length for this section right here. It's gonna be really thin. Like right there. Cool. So I'm gonna cut another one of these little trees. And I'm gonna add it to here. I'm actually gonna cut this down too because it's a little too thick and it's kind of bothering me. So we're gonna cut around that and then around here as well. I feel like such a YouTuber right now. But here we go. It's still kind of big, huh? Maybe we can section it off. So just instead of using it as an entire border, just having this bird here and then that bird on the other side. So I'm gonna section it off right here and put this little birdie here and this right here. if I had more like pictures and things, I would do this collage in the style of a David Hockney collage. David Hockney was a photographer, and he'd basically take an image and take small pictures within that image and then compile them to make the larger image that he's trying to take a picture of. So for example, like if he was photographing these trees, he would take pictures, like small pictures of a section of the tree. So like you'd take a picture of this and this and this and this and this and this, and he'd compile it to make this large image out of smaller images. And I was like, that'd be such a cool way to approach this as well, because then the envelope itself would just be one cohesive image. So that's an idea if you're willing to try it out. I would look up David Hockney collages, and he uses photographs, and that'd be super cute to like put this type of art in conversation with that type of art as well. David Hockney's photography is super cool. Anyway, oh, look how cute. There's like a little dude on a boat. Let's do that. Ah! Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to cut this guy on a boat and put him kind of like that right here. Now I'm going to take one of the bigger green trees. I'll take this one that also has a small white one, and then kind of cut this edge off and then a little bit of that off. Can you even tell what that is? Can you tell it's a tree? I think so. Okay. I kind of like how this is turning out a little bit. I'm gonna cut this so that the ripped edge is no longer on it. I'm making it a little smaller and rounded. And I'm gonna still put her here. I really like this so far. So I'm gonna lay this down and then continue to add things on top. So let's hope I can remember where everything goes. I'll put this little birdie on the side down first. So I'm gonna use my glue stick. You could probably use tape as well. Surprisingly, I had glue but not tape. I feel like it's usually the other way around. So then paste that on there. And then I'm gonna take these things off and then glue this centerpiece on. So I'm just putting like a hefty amount of glue so there's no edges that come off from the envelope. I'm gonna put that at the center. Beautiful. Then I'm gonna take this little tree that I had and glue that on. Oh, I just had an idea. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I did mention maybe including the month at the top. I think I'm gonna do that, but cut each individual letter and then kind of put it back like a collage again, if that made sense. And then I'm gonna paste the wording. Like right here. I'm gonna cover that edge actually. And then I'm gonna go in with this bunch of trees. I'm actually gonna cut the bottom of it a little bit more. That's what I like about collaging a lot, is like the process looks scary because it doesn't look like it would make sense, but that's the beauty of collaging, in that because everything is superimposed on top of each other, it kind of looks like it was meant to be there. I really love the colors of all of this, to be quite honest. I'm gonna take the flower portion, paste this on there. This was here. I'm gonna take this out for a second and then I'm gonna glue this. Sorry if that was off camera, just this text that was at the bottom. I even thought of cutting letters out to spell my name. Maybe I'll do that instead of the month. It's more personalized to me. And that's what we want, is personal. So, the back of this has a phone book. So I'm just gonna cut out the letters to spell my name. I have a J and an I. I'm gonna need an L. Oh, this might not work. I have 2 N's and 2 A's in my name, but we'll find them from a different section of this. Here's an N. I'm putting the letters off to the side. And then, do I know the alphabet? Here's A. Did I get U? I don't think I got U. I got J, N, L, I. Okay. So J, I need a U. And then almost there. So yeah, if you want to put your name on it, since I'm not going to be addressing mine, I'm going to put my name on it instead to personalize it as much as possible. So here's a U. So I'm missing an N and another A that I will find somewhere else within this notebook. So here's an N. Might be a little funky because of the color differences, but we'll make do. So here's an N and an A. So we'll just use this as a way to be somewhat consistent. That's a really small A. And an N. So then, look how small. Super cute though. So I'm gonna start laying those letters down on top here. And I'm gonna cut the edges off a little bit too. And do a J here. My name's kind of long, so I'm gonna start off center a little bit. Here's the U. U. L. Here's a tutorial on how to spell my name. L. I. Oh, that's big. I'm gonna cut that down a little bit. L, I. So you can see how very much of a collage aesthetic that it is, which I really like. And then gluing in. Here, we can do a little quirky like that, a little off center. And here's this really small N. And here's an A. Since I covered a lot of that text up, I'm gonna go in with some more text from the book. Cute. So then I'm gonna pull some more text. Maybe a piece I already cut. Put at the bottom. kind of like lining. I like that. I'm gonna line it. Cool. Now I'm going to take the money and I'm going to cut the butterflies out because the butterflies are super cute. And I do have butterfly stickers, but I like that the color of this one will really go with the pinks and the neutral tones that I'm using. Don't think I forgot about the boatman. He'll be going right here. So I'm gonna use a butterfly right here to connect these two pieces of text. And then I'm gonna use this little boatman. Let's do right here at the corner. So as you can see, there's still a lot of white space, and my goal right now is to kind of cover all of it. And I'm gonna keep adding the clippings that I found. I'm gonna go back and paste her. I'm gonna cut out the white because there is a lot of white going on. And if you have colored pencils or crayons or things of that nature, I would use that to kind of deal with any white space that you have, unless you want white space. I'm gonna cut the center of this a little bit as well. Oh my gosh, I cut into her face a little bit, but nothing a little glue will not solve. So, this is an interesting shape now that I can play with. I might put her here and then use another white tree. Or maybe even one of these lighter green trees at the top. But actually no, I think the size of this one is better. It's all about trial and error. So I'm gonna put maybe this underneath. She's crying over a tree, maybe not. But I will add this little tree to the front here. And then I do want to incorporate the map. So I'm going to go in and I am going to cut between North America and South America. I'm going to cut out Canada. Sorry, Canada. I'm going to put that right here under that text. It's really interesting too because the text does kind of align with the content of the collage. Because a lot of the clippings I used have things about South America because the anthropology is about South America. So I'm just going to paste these here. I'm going to cut this a little bit more so it doesn't cut off the little tree we have there. I'm going to start adding more green. I'm going to take the scissors. I'm going to cut out this big, nice, fluffy tree here. And paste it here. Okay, that's glued down. What else? Should we put in pops of red from this? Is that the direction we want to go in? I think so. I'm gonna rip that off. I'm gonna cut some flowers. Let's cut around this. I like that this material is also different. That's what's cool about mail art and collaging, is that all these materials are they're all paper, but the textures are all very different from one another. So I'm gonna cut this in half and do kind of like pops of red. I'll cut this a little smaller so it doesn't cut off my small A here. And then the glue fell, that's okay. Just like a nice pop of red. Cute. And then this can go as a nice pop of red. Here, I'm gonna cut it a little smaller as well. It's like nice pops of red. And then I'm gonna cut another butterfly. There's one more here, it's almost translucent. But yes. I'm gonna add it to this red portion. Oh, the glue didn't stick. There we go. Now I'm just gonna add smaller white trees to kind of cover the white spaces. Just keep adding. I'm trying to create some sort of cohesion between the images I'm using. Another white tree. On this side, right next to the big green one. I'm gonna add this person to the bottom. It's cool because it looks like he's kind of popping his head out from the bottom. And then right next to where I have the South American part of the map, I'm gonna put that quote that says, "No borders, no nations, but until then." I'm trying to figure out the placement. I think I like it right here. We're almost done, y'all. So as you can see, this is a very like relaxing sort of craft you can do on your own. And it's very much up to you what you want to do with the different pieces of material that you have. If you are an artist and this is something you'd be good at, I recommend giving it a try because it's pretty easy. And the beauty of it is that it's meant to be judgment-free. It's challenging those norms and ideologies that you may not agree with. So you can send a message through whatever art you create. I went in thinking this wouldn't be anything political, but a lot of the imagery that I found is quite political and ended up being really pretty. I'm gonna finish off and fill these pieces with our other birdie friend, who I was gonna put here, I remember now, but I did not. That's okay. We'll put it here now. No, we won't. What if I just left it how I originally wanted it to go? Maybe not. I'm trying to figure out what to put in these two. Maybe some more text. I don't think I pulled from this book yet. Ah, this page fell off. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll use my own handwriting, and I'll use this red paper since I ended up using some red elements, and just write a little quick message. It's right here. Right there. I'm just gonna write mail art program 2020 as a reminder of when I made it. And right here, I'm just going to do as if it were a stamp, like my own signature artist stamp. I'm just going to do my initials, my signature. So this is the final product, actually, I should say. As you can see, very collage DIY aesthetic. And yes, I hope you all like this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And let me know if you end up trying out mail art and if you like it or not. I hope you all have a good rest of your quarantine and find different fun hobbies to take your mind off these wild times. Thanks for watching.